We didn't ever have any plans to go into business together. Lynn's 8 years older than I am, which meant he got his licence when I was starting high school. I'd worked with Lynn, held the staff a few times and chained a couple of jobs, and it appealed to me. So I spent probably 2 weeks after finishing senior to run around and make a decision about doing it under articles or going through the uni. And ultimately I went through the uni and did it that way and finished in '62. And at that stage, Ray Pinkham, who had a small practice in Southport, was wanting to move to Brisbane. And either Lynn or Nina saw the ad, and Lynn bought the practice and rang me one night and said, "What do you think?" So they came up and had dinner with us the next night, and the next morning I went into JF&P and gave 2 weeks' notice. And that's how it happened. We didn't ever plan or talk about it until it actually happened, even though both of us were licensed surveyors. It was a good growth area. We had the work to be done, and we were able to do the work. We had complementary backgrounds to a certain extent. I'd done a lot of city work and residential subdivision work for Joneses in Brisbane, as well as ground control work. And Lynn had been here since '56, so we had quite a long while of local knowledge and contacts. And if we said we'd be there at 8 in the morning, we were there at 8 in the morning. We were doing our own work for the first couple of years, so there was, people saw who they were getting on site. And in those days that made a bit of difference, I think. We didn't make many errors at all, so that counts. The surveyors, they get a surveyor in to get things right. Sometimes it's statutory on boundaries and stuff, but on engineering work and building work, you're there to get it right. Millimetres don't matter, but you're there to be right. They've grown in scale as the Gold Coast has grown. Initially it was a lot of small scale subdivisions, ident work, building set out work, and then as the high rise started to be involved and the titling legislation developed, the tightening, that brought in a major field of work with the building units titles and the strata and the group titles. And I can remember saying to Lynn in about '74 when we were in Park Rise that we've got to become titling experts. But the titling became a significant thing, and then the actual building construction work to do with high-rise construction, verticality, setting out for the actual, starting in the basement, the piles, the pile caps, the columns, the walls and so on. We didn't do it on every building, but some, depending on the foreman or the site supervisor, we could, a high-rise building was like a major subdivision for us, and that evolved into an additional class of work. I can remember working on the top of probably a 15-storey building, may not have been the top, but on about the 15th level of a building, and they used to get us into the top floor as soon as it was gone off enough to work on, and we'd be up there at 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, sort of walking on almost spongy concrete, and the crane would be lifting stuff up for the form workers to work with, and there'd be no barrier fencing around the perimeter of the roof level. At times you had to work to the edge of the roof and stop the crane working so it didn't shake the compensator in the instrument. But Condor was one of the early ones, because I remember Norm Schmiede, the client, coming into the office in Southport. It wasn't in Surface, so it was pre the end of '73, and that was the first time I'd sort of had to sit down and work out from an architect's and engineer's plan how it fitted on the site. And I hadn't done it in advance. I sort of did it down in the hole with the sand and the wind. We learnt very quickly that you used to get the engineer's plans and the architect's plans and the survey plans and relate the three together before you went on site, so you knew where you were. It was an important part. Nobody had ever told us about how to set out a high-rise building, and we had to, derive our own methodology to do it, just so it went in the right place, and we didn't ever have any problems with set out. Ever have any set plans about growth or expanding beyond the Gold Coast? We were quite happy to be Bennett and Bennett and do the work we were doing. In hindsight, if you look back and ask where two young surveyors should set up in business, we couldn't have picked a better place to do it. But we didn't ever plan to be the biggest on the Gold Coast. I think with our ethic, we were probably not consciously setting out to be the best, but we wanted to be the best. We didn't ever set out to be the cheapest, because you can't be the cheapest and the best.